All right. Good afternoon again to everyone and welcome for the people that is here in the hall in person and for the folks that are joining us online. Once again, my name is Eduardo Novoa. I am the Technical and Training Development Coordinator here at the Ignite Hub. And tonight we are going to be talking about IT career pathways. So with that, um, I would like to, this is the agenda. This is more or less what we'll be touching about today. So we're going to, first of all, define information technology. Okay, we're going to make sure that we are all on the same page, as people sometimes uh, confuse it with computer science. And there's a big zone of contingents, but in reality, they're two different things. So we're going to define information technology. Then we're also going to touch a little bit on this in respect of the time. We're going to touch a little bit about common biases, misconceptions, and obstacles that people face getting into the IT field. Then this is the part that I think is where we're going to spend the most time. We're going to talk about and define the general career paths within IT. And then we're going to talk a little bit about training, certification paths, and other helpful resources as for anybody that is interested in getting into this field. Again, this presentation is geared or targeted towards people that is either interested in getting into the IT field, or maybe you're a career switcher that you're heard so much about IT and you're interested in probably switching your career and getting into this field, but you wouldn't know where to start, or just what is the lay of the land, if you wish. So with that said, we're going to start with the first part. Again, I think that a lot of people confuse and confound information technology and computer science. And like the slide says, each one of them is a vast field with unique differences, but there's also a lot of crossover, okay? So with that said, let's start here. If you can represent information technology and computer science as those big circles that you're seeing on the screen, you can see there's going to be a big area that the two of them have, a common area. And let's start with computer science on the right. So computer science, for the most part, it's the people that actually create the systems, the software, the hardware, the platforms where everything else runs. IT, on the other end, or information technology, focuses on computers, networks, the data that traverses those networks, and how to protect that data, to make sure that it's accessible, that it's safe, secure, and that it's not being compromised, okay? Basically, is making sure that these things run smoothly. And believe it or not, that sounds simple, but it's a lot. It's actually a lot, and you're gonna see that there's a ton of different things that IT does. Again, computer science focuses mostly on the computation, programming, algorithmic mathematical processes, etc., the design of building of computers. And it's not just actually building the computer per se, but designing the chips, the software that will run on those, basically designing the systems, the architectures, that is the correct word, on what everything that we use runs on. Let me give you an example. Most of you are familiar with Windows. Well, Windows is an operating system that runs in a specific family of processors. And again, you are very familiar with Android. Android, again, is another platform, is another operating system that runs in a specific set of processors and hardware. So that's what the computer scientists do. They create these platforms, these architectures, the operating systems, and all the programming languages, so people can develop the apps. If you start thinking linearly from right to left, you can think that the computer science people is the one who make everything possible. And as you start going to the left, the IT people is the ones that actually make it happen, make it useful and usable and support it for everyday use. Most of you, when you think IT, it's going to be support, and we're going to talk about that. That's probably one of the most client-facing aspects of IT, but there's a lot more that happens behind the scenes. A lot of people that you may never ever see, but without them, you will not be able to use your computer and use your applications or access the data that you require. Another big difference between these two is that usually computer science, to get into computer science, you are going to require a college degree to get into that. While getting into information technology does not necessarily require a degree to get into it, but if you want to progress to the higher levels or management, college degree will always be something that you will need. But again, so IT kind of focuses on computers, networks, the data that traverses those, lives in those computers and networks, and how to secure it and make it accessible. My apologies. Again, computer science, computation, algorithms, engineering, and now what a lot of people have been talking about, the artificial intelligence, all right? So that's also kind of part of that. Now, there will be some other people that will argue that there's yet another circle that kind of belongs in this graphic and also has an intersection with the other two, and that will be data science, okay? So data scientists will say, yeah, there's a separate thing. In my opinion, in a lot of other people's opinion, data science is a subset of computer science. I'm not here to go into any type of discussion about that because, again, in order to do data science, you require those algorithms that engineering, and now data science is heavily using AI. Now let's talk about the intersection. This is where there are careers that fall in between the two of them. One of coding, programming, software development, web development, that is basically where you will have these people will use what the computer scientists have invented, created, and will apply it to create applications, websites, programs, everything else that it will be used by IT. Okay, so I would like to just pause for a second to see if there are any questions, either in person or online about this part. Okay? All right, so that's defining more or less what IT is. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about why information technology. Again, most of you are probably here because you're interested in a career in IT, you're curious sort of why so many people, and you hear a lot of things. It's a great career, you'll make a lot of money, it's very exciting. All those things are true to a point, honestly. But let's talk about some of the reasons why that's happening. First of all, there's a multitude of career options, and that is true. You're going to see that in a moment when we talk about those career paths, and just some, what we're going to talk is just like touch on some of those titles and possible careers that you can get into IT. So there's a ton of things that you can do in IT. So that's the one thing that is very attractive. Booming job opportunities. Again, this is where the whole thing about there's always job postings. We need these, we need network engineers, we need computer support, we need programmers, we need this, we need that. And the salaries are pretty decent. So you're like, okay, so there's always, and this keeps on growing. And this is where it goes about that. So if you look at that, it says the expected growth over the next 10 years for this particular, for careers in IT, is anywhere from 30 to 250% above the national average, depending on the career path. Now, again, there are some careers that are more established in IT, and they're still seeing a lot of growing, and it will see a lot of growth. And we're going to talk the reason why in a moment. But when you see that 250%, you go like, wow, this is where they really need a lot of people. And I can tell you that that number is going to be concentrated mainly in three areas. And that's going to be cybersecurity, it's going to be data science or data analytics, it's going to be cloud computing. And now I dare to say artificial intelligence is the next one that is probably going to create a lot of jobs and opportunities. The reason why these careers keep on growing is because the number of devices, the number of technologies that we use and now depend on a daily basis keep on growing. So just think about like 10 years ago, and for people that is a little older, 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, how much technology we use in our lives on a daily basis to do our jobs, to do daily tasks, to go to school, for education, for anything, just even to book a flight, okay? 30 years ago, you actually had to go to either the airport or an agency to buy a ticket, if you wanted to fly on a plane. Nobody does that anymore. So my point is like technology is now so persistent in every aspect of our lives that somebody has to support this technology and these systems. It's not only the devices themselves. When we think about technology, we always tend to think just about the hardware, but in reality, most of the technology is in the systems that make those devices useful. An iPhone without the software, without the internet, without the apps, is a paperweight. So the a lot of the careers in IT are going to be doing that, the under the hood type of situation, what you don't see, but what it's necessary to make it happen. So that's the main reason why you're going to see that. Apologies. The other one is financial security. Again, I think that one of the main incentives to get into career and into IT is because for the most part, and in most areas, IT careers are fairly well remunerated, in comparison to people that have the same amount of education or experience in other fields. Your mileage may vary depending on what you do, on what area of the country or the world you live, but for the most part, these are well remunerated careers. This one is actually interesting because these information technology, depending again on the career, will give you opportunities for in-person, remote, or hybrid work. Okay, not all careers have that luxury. Just think about if you're like, in the construction business or in this hospitality business. For the most part, you need to be there. The only option that you're going to have is to be in person. Limited remote. Limited maybe hybrid, but probably very little remote. In IT, there's actually some careers that can be fully remote. Some of them can be hybrid. Give you an example. During the pandemic, I was working here at the IT department at Montgomery College, and I was able to go fully from being an in-person person to do my job in line, remotely, completely. That's not always true. That's not always possible with other careers. So that's also a consideration. And the last one, I think this is important for a lot of people, innovation. If you're the kind of person that likes to be on top of things, on what's coming up, what's the latest thing, what's the latest technology, this is the career for you. But with that said, that is also another thing that if you get into a career in IT, you will always have to keep up to date. Otherwise, you become obsolete pretty soon. So you don't have to be thinking about what is happening right now. You need to be preparing yourself for what is coming up. A big example of that is like right now, there's a lot of fear, I guess, and insecurity about AI. Is AI going to take over my job? Yeah, AI is going to take over some jobs. But think about it that AI is also going to create opportunities and new jobs. So if you're smart, you will be preparing yourself to be in one of those jobs. If your job is, at risk to being replaced by AI, somebody still needs to program those AIs, right? Okay, and this is the one that I think I found it more and more interesting every day because nowadays every organization, regardless of what they do, require technology. If you're in the medical field, if you're in education, if you're in government, if you are running a business, if you are in finance, if you are in transportation, these days you cannot run a small business, even if it's a small, mom and pop shop, they will require technology. Maybe again, going back in time, 20 years ago, maybe the only thing that they needed was maybe to have a computer just to keep some inventory, track of the inventory. And then maybe they were like, maybe we should get into this email thing. But now, how can you have not even a lemonade stand without having a social media presence and able to take payments that are other than cash? So you require technology to run anything these days. So when we talk about the intersectionality of technology and other fields, is that you may end up doing functions. Let's think about this word because we're going to go back to it. You may end up doing functions of IT even if you're not in the IT department. Let me give you a big example. If you work in a hospital, right? And then obviously you need to know the use of the technologies, the programs, the tools that they use, to do their job. But you may not be in the IT department. You may be the system administrator for one of the systems in the hospital. You may be the person who's creating the accounts for the new nurses or whatever, and making sure that when they leave, you close that account, et cetera, et cetera. That is a function of IT. Yet you may not be in the IT department. So you're going to see more and more of that, of IT functions being incorporated in jobs that are not necessarily IT. Why is this important? Because learning these skill sets that were specific for people in IT only are now being asked more and more for other careers. Just think about it. If you're looking at LinkedIn and you're looking at an administrative aid job, I bet you that it's going to say proficiency in like Microsoft Office, on Windows, whatever it is, right? Because it's required. Without that, this person cannot do their job, email, etc. That used to be, again, just the domain of people in IT. Now everybody needs to have some kind of level of skills that are related to information technology. Again, I'm going to stop right there to see if there's any questions online, in person about these comments. I think it's quite clear. So this is the reason why IT is growing so much. Right. I want to just touch on this again, just a little bit. Don't dwell on this too much. Current and future trends. Every time that happens, I need to some reason. So first of all, skill gaps. This is the reason why you see those many job postings, and the reason being is like the technology is growing faster than the ability of the industries, of the companies, of the institutions to train their people. So again, let me give you a good example with AI. AI is being adopted in all fields right now, from, just so it can help you to write a better email, a better proposal, et cetera, et cetera. So companies are really trying to get into these technologies. Why? Not just because it's nice, not just because we want to put it in the brochure, we're using the latest and the greatest, but because if you don't get on that, your competition is going to outsmart you. It's just you need to keep up just to be competitive. It's no longer I'm going to be in the latest because I just want to be the nice. No, just to remain competitive, you need to get in these technologies. So it's difficult for companies to get into these new technologies and get the people that have the knowledge and the skill set that is able to support them, to train them. So that's the one. Again, hiring demands. The growth of jobs in technology and even jobs that require skills, technical skills that are not necessarily in IT keeps on growing. And there's not enough people that is qualified or have those skills. Changing technologies increase demand. Again, same thing. Cloud computing. And that's what I said when we talked about that 250% growth. And I mentioned cloud computing. Cloud is one of those things that now everybody is using, regardless of the size of the organization. And I would like to just take a moment to clarify what is cloud, because pardon the pun, but sometimes that concept is a little nebulous. And actually, that's the reason why in the old network diagrams, you used to represent the different things that you had in your network, and everything that was outside in the network was represented by a cloud. So in reality, cloud is any technology, any data, any systems, anything technology related that is outside the boundaries of your organization. That is cloud. We all use cloud applications without even knowing or thinking that they're cloud. Let me give you an example of a cloud application. Netflix is a cloud application. Usually, any application that you access to a web browser or a specific application on your phone, on your computer, is a cloud application. It's data, it's not in your organization, it's somewhere outside, and then you just reach it. Again, it could be systems, it could be data, it could be applications, it could be a lot of different things. With that said, why is cloud growing so much? The reason cloud has grown so much and it keeps on growing is because as technology demands keep on growing, smaller to medium-sized companies that do not have the money, the expertise, or the time to implement new technologies have to outsource it to somebody else. And Microsoft, Google, Amazon, anybody is really happy to provide those services for you. That is the cloud. So nowadays, most organizations have at least one cloud provider. Most of them have at least two. Again, the big names on cloud right now, it's Amazon Web Services or AWS, and Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud. But AWS and Azure are the big names on that game right now. So that's why the growth there. And again, I also mentioned data analysis and the cybersecurity. Again, we're collecting tremendous amounts of data that need to be analyzed, make sense of, be turned into information and usable information. And then we need to secure the data that we have. Again, the reason why cybersecurity has grown so much, because the surface has grown so much. Now, it's really, to use an analogy, the ocean is now full of fish for like cyber criminals. With the number of devices, of systems, of data that we now have, all they need to do is just throw a hook and it's going to be easy to catch a fish. That's the reason why cybersecurity is now needed by everybody. 20 years ago, only the government, big institutions needed or could afford cybersecurity. Nowadays, everybody's fair game. We all need at a personal level, at a family level, at community level, at organization level, some kind of knowledge and ways to secure our data. All right. So with that, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about potential barriers. Okay. And then again, I want to touch on this like very little because but in reality, it's not all as with everything, there's a lot of barriers for people that want to get into this field. It is a great field to be in, but there is some barriers. And some of them are listed in that slide. As you can see, first of all, is that skills gap. I don't have enough skills. I want to get into IT, but when I go into LinkedIn and I look at the job that I want to see, I see that they have listed 12 things, and I barely have 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can address that. But that's the thing. And that includes hard and soft skills. It's not only technical, but sometimes nowadays also, any job into the information technology is going to be, at some point, you're going to have to be facing a client. That client can be a customer, that client can be a colleague, that client can be the CEO of the company, but at some point you're going to need to face somebody, and you need to have those communication skills. That's the number one thing that they're asking as far as soft skills. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Second is lack of access to education or training. Again, here in Montgomery County, we are very lucky that this is a densely populated county. You have institutions like Montgomery College, and there's a ton of other places you can go and educate yourself. But if you live in certain parts of the country, the closest school, the closest training center, maybe 30, 40 minutes away. Lack of resources, lack of time or discipline to study. I want to get into this, but I really don't have the funds. Sometimes some of these courses can be expensive. A degree in IT can be expensive. Even certifications can be expensive. So then again, I don't have the space. I live in a one-bedroom apartment with my two kids. I just don't have the space so I can sit down, concentrate, study. I don't have the time to dedicate to this. These are all real things, okay? Again, it could be that my computer is not good enough, my internet connection is not good enough. And yeah, unfortunately, those isms are still a thing. The good thing is like I'm seeing less and less of that, but as with anywhere else, your age, sexism could be, a potential barrier. The next one is kind of interest, the lack of confidence. A lot of people is like, I really want to do it, but this seems so complicated. They use these complicated words. I don't know if I'm smart enough. I don't know. I see a bunch of young people getting into this field. I think I'm too old. I think I really am not good at math. I don't know. I don't know if I can get into this field. And lack of experience is a big one. Again, I think that if you go and look at the job posting, you're going to see we require this certification, this degree, or these skills, and then on top of that one, 3, 4, 5, 10 years of experience. Where do you get that? Gonna try to talk a little bit about how can you also address that. And the last one, it's a very real one. Don't know where to start. If you are trying to get into this field, and you try to do a Google search, you will be bombarded with so much information that you really will be more confused than when you started. So don't know where to start. What is this thing? We're going to try to help you a little bit with that today. But those are some potential barriers that we've seen. Yes, we have a question? Sure.
We have a question in the chat, and it says, hello, my question is, what is the importance of certifications in advancing an IT career? Are there any highly recommended ones? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Actually, we're going to address that. And yes, just to give you a little preview, certifications are very important in IT. Certifications are a good way to both get into the field and to advance into the field. We are going to talk about certifications when we talk about resources. But with that said, this is kind of a question for you to individually think. We're talking about now, we're going to talk about the skill sets, all right? And then we're going to touch a little bit about that too. So what do you think are the skills, both hard and soft, that are required in the IT field? And how do you conduct an inventory of your skills? We already talked a little bit about that. But this is just some baseline, meaning that this is what, if you're looking for a career in IT, most jobs are going to require that you have a fundamental knowledge of these things. Troubleshooting, understanding of hardware, operating systems, again, like Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, Linux, etc. Depending on which one will be favored more than the others. For example, you see Linux there, and for those of you who are not familiar with what Linux is an operating system that is used a lot for servers, and especially in cybersecurity, is like a skill set that you need to have. Again, Office software, this is a good one. Fundamentals of networks and security. Again, you need to have, even if it's a high-level understanding of how networks work. And also the same thing with security is like, why is important and how do you protect data? Again, you don't need to get into the nitty gritty, but you need to understand other software. What we mean by other software, that is software that is specific to certain careers. If you're going into help desk and you see probably a posting and says, we would like you to be familiar with this particular ticketing system, if you are, great. If not, but that's what we mean by that. And then there's software and systems that are used for all different careers. We talked a little bit about these soft skills, and the communication, again, keeps on coming as number one for everything. Believe it or not, that's a big one. And but other soft skills that are really, really needed for this field are organization, analysis, learning and research, And that one is super important. You being able to find a solution on your own. Not everything that is taught at school is you're going to, not everything that you learn in school is going to be usable or useful when you're actually doing your job. You may need to do further research or use the knowledge that you got at school or getting that certification, and then you need to expand it on your own. And again, interpersonal, nonverbal communication, being able to talk to those clients that we talked about. So again, that little thing, hard skills are essential to get noticed, but soft skills are key advancement in an industry. And that is true. You will not, especially if you want to get into management in IT, these are going to be essential. So again, this is a discussion for you to think about it. So what was covered in this section? What stood out for you? What do you think it was the most important thing? We talked about the difference between information technology and computer science. Then we talked about why a career in IT. Then we talked about some potential barriers. Then we talked about the skills. So which one you think it was like really stood out for you? Which one you need to work on? Which one you need to think about? And that one, what hard and soft skills you currently have and which ones you need to improve or acquire. So the easiest way, and this is when the part about conducting kind of like an inventory of skills, the easiest way to know what the skills you lack is for you to go to like these hiring websites. LinkedIn, I like it. You can go, these job postings and look at the career that you want to get into. And look at these job postings in your area and compare 3, 4, 5 of those and see what are the common things that they're asking. And then really think honestly and sincerely which ones you have and which ones you need to acquire. Nobody knows everything. I've been in this industry for 20 years. There's a ton of things that I don't know. There's a tons of things that I need to learn. But you learn as you go. The important thing is like you get the skill sets that you need for the job that you want, and then you continue growing this list of skill sets. Either you keep on acquiring more or you keep on honing and getting better at the skill set that you already have. But that's very important. So now let's talk about the main thing, okay? This is the potential career paths. If you ask 10 different people that has been in IT, you're probably going to get 10 different answers to this question. When you say, how many potential career paths are in IT? Some people will tell you they're 10, some people will tell you they're 55. In our opinion, we think that these are the 6 main career paths. Some of them, there's intersection between them, by the way, but we will think that, support, networking, cyber, data, software and web development, and cloud, those are the 6 main paths, okay? Or the 6 right now. Again, I think that with the advent of AI, you can technically maybe add it to the data or to the software and web developers. I think that it will be there, or it could become its own, bucket eventually. But that's, in our opinion, what we are looking at. Again, there could be more, and there's sub-specializations in each one of these things. But in our eyes, and this is what we're going to talk about. So when we go through all these 6 career pathways, we're going to talk about 2 things. We're going to talk about the functions, okay? So when we talk about the functions, are general things that regardless of what your title in that area is, you will be performing. Depending on your title, you may be performing more of one function than other, or you may not be performing one function, you will be exclusive to another one, but in that particular area has those functions. And it could be more. Again, we're just skimming. We're just skimming the surface. We are just trying to give some general information. Trust me, you can do deep dives in these things. But with that said, let's talk about IT support. And most of you, when you think about IT or the people that you have probably encountered in your life in IT are most likely an IT support person. The quintessential entry-level job in IT is the help desk specialist or help desk analyst, whatever you're going to call it. And we all have been in contact with one of these individuals. You need to call to reset your password. You just call the help desk. You need to, you have a problem with something, you're calling the help desk. So the help desk is the person that receives that call, tries to address it if possible. If not, it channels it, creates a ticket, and then, channels it to the correct department or group. That is considered an entry-level position in IT. But then there are other functions in support and other titles. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of different things that you can do in support. Support is actually a big part of what, in IT departments for most companies. These are a good number of people work doing some kind of support. So let's talk about some of the common functions. Again, if you think about that help desk specialist, what do? You listen to customer descriptions of problems. So that seems like it's an easy thing. But in reality, most of the customers sometimes call, they don't have the technical language that most people in IT have. Or they don't have sometimes a way to describe the problem, a way a technician will do it. So sometimes you have to translate. The customer may be telling you, look, my computer is doing beep, 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 beep. I don't know. I have a blue screen. I don't know what's going on. You cannot put that on the ticket. You need to kind of translate that, being able to listen to what the customer is saying, interpret what the customer is saying, and then trying to find a possible cause and solution to the problem. So again, a function that seems to be really simple, but it's not. Aside from that, you need to obviously diagnose computer problems, computer and network problems, I will say. The next one, the one with the little wrench, that's super important. And that goes for everything in IT, which is problem solving and troubleshooting. Most of what people do in IT is that. Troubleshooting. What is the problem? Where is the problem? And how are we going to solve it? Okay. So that's a skill set, again, that you start developing and you continue honing and getting better at it as you go. Set up, repair computer, workstations, and other devices, and install, configure hardware and software. Again, you might have, if you work in a corporate environment, maybe you get issued a device, maybe a desktop, a laptop. So the guy or the gal who came to, the person who came to help you when you were a new employer, the person who came and set up your laptop, your desktop, that was a support person. Okay. Again, if you're having problems with the printer, when you call the help desk, the person that comes to look at that printer, that is a support person. If you're having problems with you got locked out of your email account or whatever, when you call the help desk, most likely, maybe the help desk will have the ability to reset your password or to get you in again. They may have to route that ticket to the group that does that. All that is support, okay? Again, example job titles, help desk specialist, usually that's a field service technician, that is considered an entry-level job in IT and in support, obviously. A tier 2 support specialist is usually if the person on the phone cannot resolve your issue. Again, the other thing about the help desk is that that's one of the jobs that can be 100% remote, okay? As a matter of fact, as you know, a lot of these jobs have been outsourced, and it can be on the other side of the world. Or they could be in Texas, they could be, I don't know, in Idaho. So again, the person may not be, and you are here in the DC area, and the person that you're talking on the phone may be, I don't know, in Michigan. So they physically cannot come and resolve your issue if they cannot solve it remotely. Then the tier 2 support specialist is the one that will come and actually put their hands on the equipment, on the whatever is having the problems, and try to solve the issue for you. And a tier 3 support specialist is basically the person that can or have access to systems that can serve anybody in the organization. So again, this could be a person that is fully remote. This could be a person in LA, and the company has offices in New York, and somebody in the New York office needs an application push, install, patch, whatever. The person in LA can make it happen through the internet. Again, as you go, and there's a lot of different, and these are just sample job titles. When you look at, you're not necessarily going to see these exact words, but the essence of the functions of the job will be the same. All right. So that's as far as support. Networking. Now, you may not have ever seen a network engineer. You might not ever seen a network closet in your life, but this is the people that make everything in IT possible. If you think about your phone or your computer, your laptop, the way that you right now are seeing this thing, okay? You are connecting. This is traversing a network. This is traversing the internet. The internet is nothing but the biggest network in the world. It's just the World Wide Web. Without networks, computers and the technology that we have will be impossible. This is the people that install, support, maintain these networks. Again, you may not ever see a network closet, you may not ever see a network engineer, but these is the people that really make it happen, okay? So let's talk about some of the common functions, okay? Support internal servers and network devices. Ensure network is functional and secure, okay? Now you're gonna start seeing these in the security, the cyber being entrenched in all the different fields, okay? So a lot of the people, for a lot of companies, they do not have a designated or a exclusive cybersecurity department. What they do is have people that does these functions that are sprinkled throughout the organization. So somebody can be doing cybersecurity that works in the networking. Again, you're trying to make sure that your network is secure. The next one, right, hand in hand, ensure secure transfer of data. That's why it has a little padlock. We want to make sure that while that data, that document that has all that private information, that privileged information, when it's traversing the network, and it could be wired or wireless, that nobody can capture it, and steal it or modify it. So the idea is that the data goes from point A to point B in a way that nobody can grab it or modify it or anything else. So that is also another function of networking. Again, cyber networking, you see, so there's that commonality. Backup network data, okay? Again, right now, for the ones of you who understand what ransomware is a type of cybersecurity attack. Basically what it is like computers get infected and they get locked, so nobody can access the data. The only way that you can recover is basically blowing that, erasing that computer, server, whatever it is, and bringing it back to the last backup that you have. If you didn't have backups, you're done. Optimize network performance. Again, it's not just making sure that the network runs. The network has to run 24/7 at a high level of performance, okay? The standard for networks is what they call the 5 nines. 5 nines are 99.999% of the time the network should be up and running. And that's just for any company. The organizations in the government, sometimes they have 7 nines, 9 nines, 11 nines. So basically, the network cannot fail. That's the bottom line. So these are the people that make it happen. So let's look at some of those titles. Network support technician, network administrator, network engineer, systems administrator, systems engineer. So you see a lot of engineers, administrators, and there's also, I am missing here a couple of architects, network architect and systems architects. in IT, as in construction, the architect is the person that designs the system, the network, whatever it is, and that person usually is higher than an engineer. Why? Because you need to understand how everything works so you can put it in the right place. The engineer is the person that either builds that system, maintains that system, supports that system. But again, quite you have to know what you're doing there. And they are well remunerated. Okay? That's as far as networking. Let's move to cyber. And cyber, again, it just grown so much. Reason being, as I mentioned, because the number of devices, system, and data has become so great that the need to protect it has become, again, now is not a luxury, is a need. So let's talk, before we go into the job titles, let's talk about some of the common functions. And before we even get into that, I want people to understand that cybersecurity on itself is a big field. For most people, when they think cyber, the first thing that comes to mind is going to be the attacker, right? In the hoodie, in the black hoodie, just like hunched over a computer. And on the other end, you know, the defender in like a war-like room with all those big screens, monitoring the networks. Yeah, and that's a big part of cyber. But in reality, cyber is a lot more. There's a ton of things in cyber that a lot of people do not consider them being cyber. One of them is compliance, forensics. So those are big parts. And we can talk a little bit about that, but let's talk about the common functions. So conduct vulnerability assessments. What does that mean? Basically, you're scanning your network, your devices to make sure that they're safe and protected. If they're patched, if they need to, what is going on with these? They need to be upgraded. They need to, what's happening? So you're looking for vulnerabilities. That's what they're also, the hackers are looking for. You are also looking for vulnerabilities because you want to make sure that you address them. Detect cyber attacks. That is the stereotypical that we were, person that we were talking about. That's those analysts that are always looking at those things in the screens, like what's happening in the network, who's trying to hack me, just always looking at the traffic. So you're always detecting, sniffing what's happening here, okay? Because I'm telling you, networks are getting attacked not once, not twice, but thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands of times a day. So you need to detect if that is actually an attack or it's just something else. You need to evaluate security controls. What that means is like, basically, you need to make sure that the security controls that you're putting are not only good enough to protect your data, your systems, because it's really easy to throw a lock. You know, what is the easiest way to protect something? Oh, put 10 locks on it. But then now, how difficult it's going to be for the people that need access to that data to use it? You will have to open 10 locks just to get to that data. That's not practical. So there's always that balance. You know, the more secure you make something, the less usable you make it. And again, and then the more usable you make it, the less secure that it becomes. So you need to find that balance. What is that balance? And that is that evaluation piece. Monitoring that network traffic that goes hand in hand with the detection part. Investigate. So now something happened. We need to investigate it. How did it happen? How bad is it? What can we do to prevent it again? That's the next part, advice. So, okay, so what do we need to do next? How we do recover from this? And also how you train your people to be more security aware, you know, and then that's a continuous education. There's a joke, actually, cybersecurity is my specialty. There's a joke, cybersecurity says the biggest risk for a company sits between the keyboard and the chair. Basically, what they're saying that the users are the biggest risk for a company. And in reality, it's not because they're malicious. For the most part, it's not that the users are trying to do something wrong. Actually, that's is the opposite. People is always trying to do the right thing. but they can be led into doing something that they are not aware of. So that's, again, awareness is a big part, education of cybersecurity. So job titles, and just by looking at the titles, you can see the variety of things that you can do in cyber. Information security analyst or SOC analyst, that is considered an entry-level job in cybersecurity. Unfortunately, is not an entry-level job in IT. I always try to explain it this way. You cannot be a good protector if you don't know what you're protecting. So you need to have a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more experience, even to get into an entry-level job in cyber. But then you have the penetration tester. Penetration tester is also known as a white hat hacker. Basically, it's a person that your company hires and they try to hack you. But then they come and they tell you, look, I was able to hack you. I found these vulnerabilities. So that's what they do. Super interesting. Cryptologists. Cryptologists is the people that actually create encryption and also try to break the encryptions that exist. So, for example, the NSA is always hiring that kind of people, and they got to be really good at math. If you want to become a cryptologist, that's all based on math. Again, data forensics, analyst, examiner, the same way that there's like in a crime scene, there's people that come and collect like, the evidence, blood, fibers, whatever it is in a crime scene. Crime scenes nowadays also have digital devices, computers, cell phones. The people that process those are not the same people that is processing the blood and the fibers. These are those data forensic analysts. Compliance, again, compliance, because a lot of people don't think that that's a function in cyber. But yeah, your company, let's say that you work for the financial industry, there's going to be regulations that you trying to protect the data, the privacy of your consumers, and you have to comply with these in order to operate your business. So a person needs to know how to protect the data, how to make sure that they are complying with the law. And I put the last two ones just because in every one of these areas that we've been talking about, there's always opportunities for management and a need for management. But I put those two at the bottom because these are positions that 20 years ago did not exist. These are positions, and as you can see, the latest one is a C-level position, the Chief Information Officer or CISO, did not exist before. And again, it's because of the need of security that every company has that now there's a C-level administrator, officer, whatever you want to call it, that is in charge of the security of the data. Because for a lot of companies, it's not the buildings, it's not the computers, it's not the equipment that they have. The most valuable thing that they have is their data, their intellectual property. So it's so valuable to protect, or their reputation, their customers' information. It's so valuable to protect that now it requires that level, somebody to be in charge of that. Questions, comments thus far? Otherwise, we move on. We're going to take a break in a couple of months once we go through these 6 areas. Next one is data. Again, why data analytics is growing so much? The same reason as why cyber is growing. The number of devices, the number of systems have increased. The number of data that we produce has grown geometrically, exponentially. It's amazing the amount of data that we all individually produce in one day, let alone as a country and as a whole. But data by itself is worthless. Data needs to be, first of all, it needs to be separated. The good data from the bad data. Then it needs to be put into context. So it becomes information. All right? And then, I'm sorry, when you organize it, it becomes information. And when you put that information in context, then it becomes intelligence. So again, it sounds simple, but it's a long process. So all that data that, let's say, Google or Apple, Amazon is collecting about all of us when we are shopping, doing whatever that is that we're doing, that needs to, in order to become intelligence, in order for them to sell it to the people, the companies that are trying to sell you stuff, it has to go through a process. And this is the people that do that. So let's talk about the functions. First of all, data mining. Mining is the process of actually collecting, like it says mining. So collecting the data. It's just a matter of collecting that raw data. Just like in mining, let's say that you're mining for gold. Usually you have to get those rocks and then you have to break them down. But at the beginning, you start with something very raw. So data mining is just how you create mechanisms, tools, systems that can collect vast amounts of data. Then it goes into data analytics. That's when you start separating the good data from the bad data and you start organizing it, okay? That's what the data analytics scientists and data analytics do. So again, they take the data and through tools, algorithms mostly, and also some programming languages, they can organize it, okay? Data governance, that means that is actually big because it's okay, so how are we doing with this data? Do we need to keep it for 5 years? Is it legal for us to collect that data? Is it ethical? And how are we protecting this data, okay? So that's the data governance piece. Then you go to statistical analysis. Again, that's the part that when you are turning that information into intelligence, when you put it into context, and with that, what I said is like, okay, let's compare the sales in this quarter to last year's quarter so we can make a projection for next year's first quarter, all right? That's how you use it. That's the statistical analysis piece. And predictive modeling, it goes hand in hand, and that is actually artificial intelligence is having a big part on that. So you take those data sets, and then you start predicting the behavior. And this is where probably you being like, oh my gosh, how did this happen to me? You're like, looking for, I don't know, you're looking for shoes and you're looking for Adidas or Nike, whatever. And then you go to another web page and then boom, an advertisement for Adidas shoes happens. It's like, oh, how did this happen? Again, it's because they saw that you were looking for it. Oh, better still, you're on your way to work and you're using Google Maps. And then all of a sudden, it goes like, oh, there's a Starbucks and you take a different route than your usual route. And Google Maps has noticed that every day on your way to work, you stop by a Starbucks. But this time you took a detour or whatever. And then all of a sudden, Google Maps is like, oh, by the way, there's a Starbucks 2 miles down the road. And you're like, how did you know that I wanted to start Starbucks? Because again, they have been able to see those patterns. And this is the predictive modeling piece. Some job titles, examples of that is data analyst, data architect, engineer, scientist. And again, an oldie but a goodie, database administrator. That was the only data job that existed 20 years ago. Now it's, as you can see, has grown tremendously. Now you see why the data part has grown a lot. Software and web development. And then again, these are two different ones, but the functions are so common that we put them together. Because in reality, they use the very same tools and the functions are exactly the same. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're developing an app, an application, or a website, a web application, all those things are different, similar names. You still need to meet with the clients to discuss the needs. So what is that you're trying to do? What is that this application is going to do? What this website is going to do? What are the features, et cetera, what it's going to look like? Then you need to sometimes modify them, right? Modify the program, the application, the website, and you need to know the know-how. Design, create application systems or websites. Again, sometimes the client has an idea what they want, but it's up to you to actually make it look nice or exceed their expectations. So you need to understand design and how you are possible as an architect, what is possible to be built with the current technology. Sir, come on in. Yes, please. And then you have write programming code. Again, that's when you are a coder or a coding person, and you're just writing the code. All right. So these are the 6 main. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about cloud. Cloud. Let's talk about cloud. My apologies. I only went to 5. Cloud. Again, we talked a little bit about like what cloud is and how companies are using it now because they really need to outsource a lot of their IT functions to third parties. Um, so with that said, yes, let me give you a good example of how that kind of works. So like a little bit over 10 years ago here at Montgomery College, we used to host our own email servers here at the college in our network, right? So we needed to have the servers and the backup servers and the space for those accounts, and we needed to have administrators and people that, exchange administrators, et cetera, et cetera. But then the college started growing so fast that it was really hard to keep up with all the students. At the beginning, we didn't even offer, like 15 years ago, we didn't offer email to the students. So it was only for staff. And then they were like, no, we need to start offering to the students too. So we quickly realized that, okay, we just need to, this is growing so fast, we cannot keep up with it, and it's just becoming way too expensive and too difficult for us. So the college talked to Microsoft, and Microsoft, yes, sure, no problem. We offer this thing called Office 365. Is I don't know, $35 per month per person, whatever it is. But if you buy a bulk, we're gonna give you a discount. You don't worry about it. Your storage space for these accounts went from like our mailboxes used to be like 100 megabytes to like 2 terabytes or whatever. So that's typical what most companies are doing, and that's going to the cloud. So yes, that took a lot of weight from our IT department. And at the end of the day, the cost, it's, you either pay at the front or you pay at the end. So it made sense. And it's making sense for a lot of companies to really outsource a lot of these services. But with that said, you still need people because Microsoft, Amazon, when they come and they said, okay, we'll set it up for you, but then you need somebody to manage it and administer it, right? That is the cloud jobs that you're seeing. Okay. So let's look at the functions again. So the company is trying to outsource X service to the cloud. So you need to determine how and what will be the best way to move these services to the cloud and which of the providers we're going to be using. Exactly. Then you need to manage it. You need to, first of all, set it up. You need to manage it. You need to create those accounts. You need to secure it. And if you're using more than one cloud environment, so sometimes you need to make them talk. And you will think that it's really easy, but Amazon runs in a completely different technology than Azure. The technology is the same. It's just the way that how they do it. And sometimes it's not really easy to have them talk. It's possible, but that's the managed part. The maintain, again, you maintain those functions, that data, make sure that everything is secure, everything is good, everything is where it's supposed to be. And ensure that everything runs well. So even though Office 3, we are no longer, Montgomery College, we no longer have those email servers here, we do have people that now manage our Office 365, okay? And again, cloud architect, cloud engineer, cloud specialist, or the person that I just mentioned, those Office 365, those will be your system engineers or your system administrators, okay? All right, that was a lot of information. And I think that everybody needs a little break. So what we're going to do is, first of all, before we go on break, see if there's any questions, comments about anything that we have asked. Otherwise, we are going to take a 5-minute break. We will return back at 7:20, and we will continue talking about some of the resources and certifications, okay, including on those. So thank you so much. I'm going to try. And so thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. So now let's talk about this salary statistics, okay? And this is the piece that I think that when we were talking about a career in IT and why a career in IT, this is the piece, one of the main considerations why people are considering a career in IT. So I want to explain these figures that you're seeing right there. First of all, these are median salaries. What does that mean? That means that let's talk about, for example, the network specialist. Okay, you see $80,600 a year. What that means is that they've taken a network specialist in, I don't know, in Alaska, all right? Or maybe in like South Dakota, and then one in Silicon Valley, all right? And then they have averaged those salaries, okay? And that's, again, that I wouldn't say is entry, well, that could be entry level, actually, for most of these things. So potentially, you can see less than that or more than that, depending on the area of the country that you live. Now, with that said, here in the DC area, this is one of the most expensive areas in the country. So you can actually see a good 15 to 20% more on those salaries. Okay. Again, they may not be entry level, but yes, this is one of the main reasons why. So, and as you can see, now you see why cloud, software, data, cyber are being paid so much. Again, we talk about IT support, and I think that that figure really is more for like a desktop, I'm sorry, help desk specialist, because I know for a fact that there are people in support that are making six figures here in this area easily, especially if you get into the management piece. Yes, a network engineer in this area is making easily $100,000 a year. Again, cyber, as you saw, it's wide and there's a lot of different things. But again, six figures is not uncommon in this area for somebody with some experience on it. Data, actually, I think here you can make a little bit more than that. And the software developers actually can make a lot more than that, depending on exactly what you're doing. Because here is kind of smashed together. When it says software and web developers, I think that they put together the salary of like somebody that just does coding versus a developer, and those are two different things. So developer actually can make more money than that, and cloud, again, it's sounds about right. But take that as a guide. And this is one of the main reasons why jobs in IT are, a lot of people is trying to switch into a job in IT or start a career in IT. Now, my personal experience. Money should always be one of the top three considerations whenever you're choosing a career, a job, etc. Obviously, remuneration is why we work, one of the main reasons why we work. I can tell you my own personal experience that this has been a very fulfilling career for me, but also it has allowed me to have a decent standard of living here. So I do recommend a career in IT. And again, further research is needed. Use this only as a guide, okay? With that said, again, I think that this is a personal question for all of you. Of what we cover, of all these six areas that we cover and those salaries, what stood out for you? And now you can see why a lot of people is getting into cyber, why a lot of people is trying to get into cloud. And aside from that, it's not only, well, like I said, the money is important, but where or what of these areas do you see yourself most interested in, or you performing better or being able to grow the most? Okay. Well, already we had our break. So now, for the person who was talking about certifications, we're going to go through this a little fast, but degrees versus certifications. So I want to make sure that you understand that, like I mentioned before, IT is dominantly an experience and skill-based industry. Again, and this is, you go to any job posting in IT and you're going to say, we want these skills and 3, 5, 1 year, whatever experience, okay? More than 25% of IT professionals do not have college degrees. But, okay, again, that is the caveat. You can get into the IT industry without a degree, but if you want to grow into the higher tiers of management, a degree will be required. And as you can see on the second bullet, a degree can provide a breadth of exposure to various aspects of IT. And, so again, there's no cookie cutter path. Now, let's talk about certifications and why they are so important or so valued in the IT industry. Okay, certification shows you have foundational or a specific knowledge. Okay, again, as you can see, it says they are specific to a skill set or a path. They are generally required on most jobs, even for that proverbial entry-level job in IT, which is the help desk specialist. Most likely, they're going to ask you for the A+ certification. We're going to talk about that in a sec, which is considered an entry-level credential in IT. So why certification versus a degree? Again, as you can see, a degree, if you get into information systems bachelor, yeah, it's going to cover a lot of different things. It's going to cover management. It's going to cover, they're going to have some electives, because the idea of a bachelor degree or associate's degree is to give you a rounded, education, so you can become a professional with specific knowledge in the areas that you're trying to become a professional in. A certification is a lot more narrow. A certification proves that you have the specific skill set or knowledge to do something very specific. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Industry certifications. No, we're going to talk a lot about CompTIA. Okay. First of all, I want to make sure, disclosure, I had CompTIA certifications. Have nothing against them, but they are not paying me anything. Why we mention CompTIA so much? CompTIA, and I have actually a slide, and I'm going to go back about this. And there you go. And we'll come back to the other ones, okay? So who's CompTIA? CompTIA is a Computer Technology Industry Association. It's a non-profit, supposedly, trade association. But look at the third bullet. The certifications are considered an industry standard. They are not affiliated with any specific vendor, and they are what they're called vendor neutral. So when it comes to certifications, there are going to be two different types: vendor neutral or vendor specific, okay? And vendor neutral means that the knowledge that you acquire in the certification can be applied to anything, all right? For example, we're going to talk about, and now we go back. So if you have no knowledge of IT, you're just completely new, and you just want to have that foundational knowledge that I told you about, this is one that it can help you prove to an employer that you have acquired foundational knowledge. What foundational knowledge means? Foundational means that you understand at a high level all the aspects of IT, okay? So, and then again, this could be a good one. It's called ITF or IT Foundations Plus. Is a certification, again, that covers at a very high level all areas of IT for a broad understanding. So they talk a little bit about operating systems, about networking, about security, about cloud, et cetera, et cetera. So you basically is what we've been talking about here, but in steroids. And then you start, acquiring that knowledge so you can start making probably a better decision. So that's just a pre-career certification. Now, IT support. Now we're gonna go area by area. So again, I talk about the A+. The A+ is considered universally the entry-level certification in IT. Again, this is CompTIA, and this particular one, what it shows the holder or the employer is that you have acquired knowledge in hardware and operating systems. So now you can start doing support on those things, including mobile devices, security, again, foundational stuff. All right, and usually that is considered the first certification that you can get. By the way, before we even move, I want to talk a little bit about how do you obtain a certification. And I want to spend just a couple of minutes on this because this is important. Basically, a certification, for most certifications, you just go and take an exam, and if you pass it, boom, you're certified. But how do you get the knowledge to get to that exam? Some people already have the knowledge because they've been working in the industry for like 10 years. That's one way to do it. Another way is that you buy the official book from these people, the official materials, and then you prepare yourself for it. There's even like practice tests, et cetera, et cetera. The other part is that you can do is you can enroll in a course, like let's say in a community college. Right here in Montgomery College, we offer preparation courses for a lot of the certifications. The advantage of that one is that, first of all, the cost is going to be reasonable. And the other part is that it's spread out a little bit, usually 8, 10 weeks, whatever. So you have a little bit more time to digest and understand the material if you're new to the industry. The other way that you can do it is you can go to any of these training centers there's a tons around here. Pros and cons. Pros, it will be that instead of 10 weeks, probably going to be like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. It's going to be a little bit more intensive. The cons is going to be a lot more expensive than if you come here to community college. The most extreme version of this is like if you enroll in a boot camp. Boot camp is usually about a week, and they cover the whole book, 1,500 pages, whatever it is, in 1 week. So it's just like, that's what it's called boot camp. In reality, it's just like a lot of knowledge. And then they just kind of prepare you a little bit for the exam. Sometimes they include the cost of the voucher. The con, those are super expensive. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. Actually, I've gone through several boot camps. Depending on where you are and what you just need to investigate these different options. That's all I'm saying, okay? After you pass the exam, now you're certified. Now you need to maintain that certification. Most certifications only last for 3 years. The only way that you can keep them is either you retake the exam after the 3 years, or during that time, you acquire that they call CEUs, or continuing education units. Different ways. There's different ways. You can watch webinars, you can go to industry conferences, you can take another course, you can take a college course. So as long as you acquire the number of CEUs, you can maintain your certification and pay a yearly fee. Certification fees vary. Both the exam fee can be something modest. I don't know, the A+, I believe is in the neighborhood of $300, I believe, around there. The exam, there's actually 2 exams, but it's around there. And then to maintain it, I believe something like $100 per year. But there are other certifications, the more advanced certifications, especially the ones in cybersecurity, that can be quite expensive. The exam for the CISSP is almost $1,000. Some of the GIAC certifications are over $1,000, and the maintenance fee can be $200, $300 a year. So, anywho, but that's as far as that. Okay, so networking, and then again, as you can see now, you start seeing a pattern here. The preferred certification for networking is Network Plus. Okay, and usually in the CompTIA manual or website, whatever, they recommend you that you take them in that particular order: A+, Network Plus, and then Security Plus, which is considered an entry-level certification for cybersecurity, because in A+, you learn about operating systems and hardware. Network Plus, networks, protocols, and all that stuff. Security Plus is how to secure everything that you have learned on the other 2 certifications. Now, this is also where we talked about vendor-specific certifications. So right there, you can see CCNA, Cisco Certified Network Associate. Okay, what does that mean, and how is that different from the Network Plus? So the Network Plus proves that you have the understanding of networks. Okay, that's what it proves. You understand about the computer networks, you understand about protocols, ports, IP addressing, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what it proves. CCNA, on the other hand, they're not going to teach you those fundamentals. CCNA means that you know how to configure, maintain, patch, deploy Cisco devices, Cisco network devices. So for this particular one, it makes sense to have both of them. Let's say now, and why we're mentioning Cisco. Cisco is probably the number one, is the one that has the biggest market share as far as like network equipment in the world. So chances are, if you're looking for job as a network engineer, the company that you're looking to work for, it's running Cisco. So if you come to the employer and show that you have Network Plus and CCNA, what that proves to the employer is that you have acquired the knowledge of networks to the Network Plus, and now you know how to configure those Cisco devices in your network to the CCNA. Does that make sense? So sometimes it makes sense to have a vendor neutral. Sometimes it makes sense to have a vendor specific. Sometimes it makes sense to stack them. One thing that I do not recommend, and I've seen some people do, is have 3, 4, 5, 6 certifications, and they're not even related. If they're related, it's fine. But if they're not related, to an employer is like, what is this person trying to do? You know, and maintaining all the certifications is going to be costly, and just keeping up with those CEUs is impossible. I currently have only one certification, which is the CISSP. For cybersecurity, again, there's a ton here. And again, the Security Plus is considered a entry level for cyber, but there's that CEH, the Certified Ethical Hacker, the one that there's also the Pen Tester, the Pen Test Plus, CISA Plus, CASP, and the one at the bottom is the CISSP, the one that I currently hold. It's considered a gold standard. Again, it's now that one is a little different than most of these other ones. And for these advanced certifications, some of them either require a prerequisite or prior experience. All the certifications that we have talked up to this point, you don't have to prove anything other than pass the exam. For the CISSP and other certifications like it, not only you need to pass the exam, but you need to prove that you have been working, in the case of the CISSP, for 5 years full-time in at least three of the 9 domains that the CISSP cover. So again, do your research. The main thing here is do your research. And how do you do your research with all these soup of letters, right? We're going to talk about that in a minute. So for data, again, Data Plus, Power BI, that's the Microsoft, Tableau, AWS Data Analytics. These are the big players in this area. For software development, again, these are more like, as you can see, these ones were now going more into vendor specific rather than vendor neutral. Again, PCEP is Python programmer, Python programming, AWS. And when we go to cloud, it's all AWS. Again, there are other certifications, but chances are that these are the most looked after. Yes, sir. Yes, of course. Oh, data. Okay, yes, sir. Yes, and you will receive a copy of the presentation anyways. All right. So we talked about this and the Triad, A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus. Okay, now, before we moved on from certifications, and I'm about to, is Chris here now? Okay, so the DoD 8570. What is the DoD 8570 and why I'm even talking about this? DoD 8570 stands for Department of Defense Directive 8570. Bottom line, the way that I can explain that is like during the Obama administration, they realized that this cybersecurity thing was real. And they went like, okay, nobody touches a computer in the federal government, any part of the federal government, either if you're a direct employee or a contractor, unless you have some kind of certification. So they created this matrix, and we're going to look at it in a second, that basically lists all the certifications that the government thinks that they are good. Why do I bring it up? If you are researching certifications, and there's hundreds, actually literally hundreds of them in IT, if it's, and this is actually a snapshot of the DoD 8570. It's actually much bigger. But the bottom line is like, if you're looking for a certification and you're not sure, if it's in that list, somehow, if it's good enough for the government, usually it's good enough for the private sector as well. Again, it's a little beyond, but you have different levels and different, that's why it's classified by that, but that's why I included that slide there. Okay, question, comments about certifications. All right, again, this is why certifications are important. And the other part is like, you have to understand that certifications, you need to do your research, because you may on the one end think, okay, yeah, that's less than a degree, less time, less money, but it's still something that is going to take resources. It's going to take your time, it's going to take your money, it's going to, so you always want a return on investment. So you're investing on yourself. What is at the other end of this? So make sure that you talk to somebody and to a professional. I've seen a ton of people that get a certification and they think that just that after they're getting that certification, they're going to immediately get a job. And that could be the case, but in most cases, a certification is part of a strategy, okay? So a certification is a complement to other skills that you have, to other experience that you have. Unless it's something very entry level, like a help desk job, the certification by itself may not get you the job. It will help you get the job if you have it as a part of your strategy. That makes sense. All right, now we're just going to talk a little bit about some resources, okay, that you have as far as like, because we've been talking a lot about acquiring knowledge, either be foundational or specific. So how do you acquire that knowledge? In reality, there's a few ways that you can acquire knowledge. You can watch a bunch of YouTube videos, but nobody's certifying. You can talk about it, and maybe you can convince somebody in an interview that you can do it. This is why a certification, it's respected, because what it proves is like, yeah, somebody has tested you and somebody's telling me that you do have this knowledge. That doesn't mean that you do not have it without a certification. Let me give you an example. I did have Security Plus, and I never took A Plus or Network Plus. All that knowledge I acquired through other means, my school or just job experience or things that I learned on my own. So I went and I took the Security Plus. I prepared myself for the exam and I came and passed it. But again, acquiring that knowledge could take different forms for different people, and it's every one of you have an individual path. What this slide here is, and it's just an example, okay? Here at the Montgomery College, and all community colleges, by the way, have two areas. One is the credit classes, the ones that you get into an academic program to either get into an associate's degree or being able to transfer to a four-year school. So every class that you take has a determined number of credits, either 1 credit, 2, 3, 4 credits. And then you have the other part of every community college has something that we call here at Montgomery College workforce development and continuing education. These are also referred as non-credit classes, and there's a variety of classes. We just had, across the hall here, we have a class that somebody is teaching how to play bridge, the card game. And we have classes on motorcycle safety, on food safety. And also, obviously, we have classes that will prepare people for a lot of different skills. Specifically, we have the Information Technology Institute, or ITI, that we have preparation courses for a lot of these certifications. And again, there's a busy slide, but it can kind of give you an idea of some of the courses depending on the area that you want. So some of these courses are not geared towards certification, but just toward getting the specific knowledge or the specific skill. Again, doesn't have to be Montgomery College. All the other community colleges in the area also offer something like this. This is just to let you know that right here, we have these offers, okay? So with that, again, experience, how you get that experience, right? That special experience. How can you prove that you have those 3-5 years of experience? If you just got your certification, you just try to get into the industry. These are some ways that you can prove. And when you're building your resume, is, you can prove to an employer that, yeah, you may not have paid or professional experience, but you do have some kind of experience. So education, again, boot camps, we talked about that. Volunteer work, a lot of people do not consider that, but you have volunteer at your church, at your local, I don't know, Lions Club or whatever, and you have helped with a web page or whatever it is, so that counts as experience. Internships, that's a big one. And then again, I think that we can do another seminar just on internships, because while they're quite useful, they're not that easy to get, but that's one of the easiest ways to prove that you have experience in a real work-life environment. Job shadowing, if your employer allow, and some of them do, if you can ask your supervisor, hey, and well, it will be actually at least two supervisors. If you can shadow an employee in the IT department that you would like maybe a couple of hours a week, if they allow you to do that, and there's a mutual no, for supervisors. Again, not always simple, but that will be very useful. Information interviews. I want to talk about these because these are super useful, especially for people like yourselves that are trying to get into the IT field. So what this is basically, if you go to like LinkedIn, and let's say that you have decided that you want to be a network engineer or a cybersecurity professional, you try to connect with somebody that is doing what you want to do, what you want to be. And you can politely and professionally ask if they have the time, if they can give you an informational interview, maybe half an hour, maybe 1 hour of their time. It could be in person, it could be a phone call, it could be Zoom. And then if they agree, and let me tell you that most professionals will give the time to somebody that is a young person that is trying to come. It doesn't have to be young, a person that is trying to get into the field. As somebody that has been in the field for a while, you're thinking about who's going to replace me, and you want that person to be a qualified, good person, right? So believe it or not, it's in the interest of most professionals to actually talk to the people that is trying to get into the field. And if you do get one of these informational interviews with these people, the only thing that I ask is that you are professional and then you come prepared. Be respectful all the time. Come prepared with questions like, what was the education that you needed to get what you are? They cannot give you an exact amount of money, but are you making enough money? How's your day looks like? Is your work-life balance well? Do you have to work on the weekends? That kind of questions, okay? And they will be more than happy to answer them if you ask them properly. And network is something that is super important. A lot of people don't understand how important it is. So yes, so that's that. I just have ways to network, and so with that, I would like to first of all open the floor for any questions that you may have, and then I'm going to talk about another resource that we have here at the college. So if there's any questions in person or online that anybody has, first of all, again, I want to thank you. That's my information. If you, again, everybody that registered for this will receive a PDF version of this presentation. So that's my information. Be more than happy to talk to any of you. But if there's no questions, I would like to talk about a service that we have here, specifically at the Ignite Hub, for people that is trying to get into the IT field. And I have my colleague here, Chris Stephens, and I will turn it back to him so he can tell you a little bit more about what him and his company do for us. Thank you, Chris.
Good evening. Thank you, Eduardo. So my name is Chris. I'm a career coach with a nonprofit organization called Career Catchers here in Montgomery County. And we are partnered with the Ignite Hub to provide one-on-one career coaching services for folks through the Ignite Hub. So that means I can help with things like, helping you put together or update a resume, identifying appropriate job opportunities, doing interview prep, things of that nature. We also have a focus on sort of career planning and goal setting as well. So if you're looking to get into IT, and aren't sure where to start, or feel like you could use some advice, that's what I'm here to support. if you're interested in signing up for career coaching sessions, you can go on to the Ignite Hub website, and there's a drop-down tab for career coaching, and that has my contact information. So you can shoot me an email, and I'll reach out and we can set up a meeting. I can try to go ahead and pull up.
Chris. Thank you so much.
Oh.
And I think that this is a great service that we provide here. Again, we've been talking about just getting into the field, and we on addition to that, also, Chris, we have monthly career workshops in which he talks about like different topics, like how to build your resume, how to strategize your job search, and we talked about those transferable skills. So I will suggest that you also sign up for those, and those are also hybrid sessions. We have them monthly. Again, at the Ignite Hub webpage, you can take a look at them. You can learn a little bit more about that, and then you can sign for the career coaching, which is a great service, and again, it's free of charge for all of you. And career catchers, they've been doing this for a long time. I know that they know what they're doing, and we're really happy and proud to be partnering with them for this initiative. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much. And our next workshop at the Ignite Hub is going to be April 16th. We'll be covering career exploration. So again, it's perfect for anyone who's looking to get into the IT field. And you can register for that on the Ignite Hub website.
Right. Thank you so much, Chris. I will try to include a slide to this presentation. Also concerning the career coaching and how you can sign up for it. So again, thank you so much, Chris. And if anybody, either online or in person, has any questions for myself or Chris, this is the time. And once again, we appreciate your patience. We appreciate you being with us tonight, and taking the time to learn a little bit more about IT career pathways. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And thanks again, Chris. If not, again, be on the lookout for an email that will contain the recording of the session. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and a copy of the presentation. Once again, thanks to everyone who attended the session in person or in line. And I hope that you have a good rest of your evening. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Lovely.